Right, so I'm going to be dissecting a video, and it's called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, and let's just get into it.
I was biking around Lake Austin the other day, and there was a white girl about 15 meters ahead of me. And as I'm on my bike, I say to her, "On your left," because I want to notify her I'm coming so that she can change her course of action. I get 10 meters away and I increase my voice, "On your left," because she had yet to move. I get 5 meters away and she's still there, and I say, "On your left," because I realize if she doesn't change her course of action, there will be a collision. And as I approach her, I yell, "On your left," and we collide. My goal was never to hit her, but because she had her headphones in, she didn't hear me, and so she didn't change her course of action. I believe that that's the same thing black people are doing now.
Alright, so I've wrote down what he said, and as someone who goes out on their bike quite frequently, I've got to say, it's fucking stupid, this. Right, so I was biking around Lake Austin the other day, and there was a white girl about 15 metres ahead of me. 15 metres on a bike, less than 10 seconds. And as I'm on my bike, I say to her, "On your left," because I want to notify her that I'm coming, so that she can change her course of action. Lake Austin, I'm assuming the trail's going to be quite wide, yeah? So you could probably go around her quite easily without having to tell her that you're on her left. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, really, isn't it? But anyway, we'll carry on. He gets 10 metres away, and he says, "On your left." He gets 5 metres away, he says, "On your left." Does collide with her, and he says, "On your left." My goal was never to hit her, but because she had her headphones in, she didn't hear me, and so she didn't change her course of action. I believe that's the same thing black people are doing right now. No. First of all, why does she have to change her course of action? She's not doing anything to affect him. She's literally just riding her bike with headphones in around a lake. That's quite normal. I feel like a lot of people do that. Second of all, is it really okay to compare this to all of the racism that's going on right now? Last of all, he is the ignorant one in that situation. He is also quite clearly the one at fault if he crashed into the back of her. Right, so he's done 4 questions. The first one is, why are there riots? It's quite an obvious one, really. I don't need to answer that. The second one, why do you think white privilege exists? That's a very manipulative question, that, because if we take away the first 4 words, it just has white privilege exists. I feel like a better question to ask with white privilege would be, what is it, and does it actually exist? Because it's debatable. Next one, how come white people can't say the N-word? I think I'll save that one for another video. How come black people care more about white on black crime than black on black crime? One's racially driven, and I guess a lot of the blame for that can be put on the media, but we'll look into it. Anyway, let's look at question 2 in more detail.
You know, another question I get from my white friends, they ask me, why do you think white privilege exists?
Now you see what I mean by the subtle manipulation.
And I say this, if you and I were in a race, and the official at the start line, they held me back for the first 200 meters, and you had a 200-meter then head start, the only way to level out that race is to either stop you from running or put me on a golf cart and catch you up and catch myself up.
Right, so I can see what he's trying to say here, but is it really a race? Why are we attaching a competition to this? Racism isn't really a competition. It's the same with the bike. Let me just make it really clear. I fucking hate racism. Across the board. What's happened to people like George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, just to name a few, is fucking disgusting. And the people who done these racist acts should be charged. Anyway, let's get back to what he's saying, shall we?
Well, you see, what we've done in America is we've simply said, okay, Emmanuel, you're now free to run. And we've acted as if it's a fair race, when in all honesty, black people were held back for hundreds of years. And so if in the late 1960s we say, okay, black people, you can go now, that's not a fair race.
Again, mate, life isn't a race. Obviously, I can see what you're saying with the metaphor, but can you give me some real proper examples of where a black person doesn't have what a white person has?
I live in an affluent neighborhood in Austin, Texas, and if I ever go to my mailbox and I see a white woman walking up to the mailbox, I consciously sit in my car because I don't want her to feel like I'm a threat.
Yeah, that is not white privilege. That is a fear you have. Nothing more, nothing less.
If I'm on an elevator with a white person, I try to hit the button first and get off the elevator first, because I don't want them to perceive me as a threat, because I realize at any point in time, whiteness can be weaponized.
I think it's clear to see he's just making assumptions. Yeah, it can be, but that doesn't mean everyone will use their whiteness as a weapon. If you're going to use your skin colour as a method of being more successful in society or getting away with things, then you are a racist.
We saw that this past week. Amy Cooper, Central Park, the woman who called the cops on a black man who wanted her to leash her dog because it was illegal to walk your dog without a leash. And she used two words that are a death sentence for black people. When she called the cops, she said, "There's a black man who's threatening my life."
Yeah, that woman's a racist and lost her job. Justice done.
Both of those things, as far as when you compile them together, were a lie. Because that black man, he was a bird watcher. And while so many people saw that incident and they were heartbroken, I, as a black man, saw that incident and was reminded of 1955.
To be honest, I've learned one thing. I had no clue he was a bird watcher.
Emmett Till, 14-year-old boy who was lynched, mutilated, and killed by two white men because a white woman made a false claim saying that he flirted with her. In 2017, that white woman recanted that story. In 1956, the two white men that killed him, they got off. And they admitted that they did it because they knew they couldn't be charged again due to double jeopardy.
Okay, hearing that story, absolutely horrific. I mean, obviously the woman is a disgusting racist. Two blokes, what the fuck were they doing? And it's a shame that that had to happen, but 1955 was a time when racism was still rife. I mean, the Civil Rights Act wasn't passed until 1964, which was a whole 9 years after that event happened. Doesn't make it right by any means. I'm not trying to justify what happened, but I just feel like the dog walking incident and that horrific murder, it's quite a bit of a jump. Like, it's a far-fetched link, isn't it?
That, to me, is white privilege. The ability to weaponize your whiteness and the ability to live life unconsciously.
Right, this is going to sound bad, but even Hitler had a conscience. Like, that's just not true. We'll say it again. Weaponizing your skin colour and being purposely ignorant towards racist behaviour are the actions of a racist.
Because I, as a black man, have to calculate every move I make the second I walk outside my house.
I agree to an extent. I mean, he did over-dramatise it a bit, but obviously it is bad for black people in America right now. Still, you can't deny that action is being taken, like the riots, the protests, the charges. All of it is happening. Things are going in the right direction.
LBJ, he said it best when he said, "You can't shackle and chain someone for hundreds of years, liberate them to freely compete with the rest, and still justly believe that you've been fair."
I'm sorry, but I am not going to be held accountable for what my ancestors done.
So white privilege it's having a head start due to hundreds and hundreds of years of systematic and systemic racism. It's having a head start intrinsically built into your life. It's not saying your life hasn't been hard, but what it's saying is your skin color hasn't contributed to the difficulty in your life.
Right, okay, let's just replay how he says that last bit.
But what it's saying is your skin color hasn't contributed to the difficulty in your life.
Notice how he sort of slows down his speech. He sort of starts to talk like this. In my opinion, I don't think he fully believes what he's saying. To me, it's not white privilege. It's just privilege. It's not necessarily a racial issue. It's more of a class issue. It may be because I'm white that I think this, but I can't see how my skin colour has affected any part of how I live my life. I genuinely can't think of any event where my skin colour has benefited me. Tell you what, let's take a look at this video real quick.
Not a great way to use your white privilege, ladies. Not a great. That's disgusting.
So all these girls were doing was cleaning off some graffiti, and apparently they have white privilege because they're able to do that. Yes, the graffiti was related to Black Lives Matter, but that doesn't make them racist at all. For example, if I came in my room and saw an Arsenal flag, I would rip it off the wall and burn it. Does that mean I want to see Mesut Ozil get burned? No. That may not have been the best analogy. but it's better than the shit he said. Now we're going to tackle a big one. How come black people care more about white on black crime than black on black crime? Let's get into this.
And another question I've gotten so often: how come black people care more about white on black crime than black on black crime? It's not that we don't care about black on black crime.
Right from the bat, I can tell you for a fact, that's not the best way to answer a question. For example, it would have been better for him to just say, yes, we care about black on black crime, but he takes a different approach. He goes, it's not that we don't. It just doesn't sound too good, does it? To be honest, it sort of reminds me of how I'd used to speak to teachers when I'd done something wrong or got in trouble. Anyway, let's let him continue. Let's see what else he's got to say.
But let me propose this. When a black person commits a crime, they go to jail. When a white person commits a crime, they get off. And hopefully, they even get arrested.
I'm going to have to disagree with him there. The officers who were involved with George Floyd's murder, obviously the murderer has been charged, and the other three have been charged with neglect, I think it is. And they're looking very likely to be spending some serious time in jail, so I can't agree with him there.
Ahmaud Arbery, the black man that was chased and gunned down by two white men in Georgia. It took us 2 months to arrest those perpetrators. And the only reason we did? Because we saw the video. Imagine if camera phones didn't exist.
Of course, with the Ahmaud Arbery case, it took about 2 months for the murderers to get arrested, but they got arrested. And it's thanks to the good people who actually filmed this shit, because obviously we wouldn't know. But at the end of the day, justice does eventually get done if enough people protest and riot, and that's what we're seeing.
Black on black crime is an issue, but if you do the research, high violent crimes are all interracial. Blacks kill blacks, whites kill whites, Hispanics kill Hispanics.
Interesting. So he's saying violent crime happens to any race. Whites kill whites, blacks kill blacks, Hispanics kill Hispanics, Asians kill Asians, dogs kill dogs, cats kill cats, whatever, yeah? Carry on watching and see what he says.
So it's not that we don't care, but it's the same issue as why y'all saying Black Lives Matter when all lives matter. We understand all lives matter.
I agree with Black Lives Matter as a movement. There's some parts of the movement that I don't overly agree with and some that I will criticise. However, I'm not one of them all lives matter people. I can understand and I can see that because I'm not thick.
But right now, black people are dying at the hands of white people.
What did you just say?
But right now, black people are dying at the hands of white people.
You also said this.
Blacks kill blacks, whites kill whites, Hispanics kill Hispanics.
I can't be the only one that thinks that's a little bit contradictory. A little bit dodgy. I feel like this hasn't been said yet, but when a white person kills a black person, it's not always going to be racially motivated. Yes, white on black crime is an issue and it's getting rectified slowly, like all of the protests happening. We're seeing demonstrations. Fact is, times are changing, but not many people seem to see that. Also, there's still a long way to go, but we'll get there. We have to. Let's see what else he's got to say.
And I can't change that. Only you, my white friends, y'all can change that.
Well, I can show you something at least. Now, this is a video from Milo Yiannopoulos, who is a well-known right-wing conservative activist, but he's talking about stats on homicides and murders by race, and I don't like the guy personally. I think he's a right cunt, but he seems to be talking sense here, so let's see.
Based on 2012 numbers, it would take 40 years worth of blacks killed by police to equal the total number of blacks murdered by other blacks in a single year. Less than 400 people a year are killed by cops. 61% of them are white men. 32% are black males. Black men are not killed out of proportion when you consider they're much more likely to interact with police. People are killed by police about as often as they're struck by lightning, but I don't see many protests about storms. Black males are 58% of those killed legally by private citizens in self-defense. And you think, aha, we've got you on something. Except 75% of them were killed by other blacks. FBI statistics on murder lay bare the real threat to black lives in America, and that is other blacks. Black men are about 6.5% of the US population, but they commit 52% of all murders. That has dipped to about 40% in recent years. Black men overwhelmingly murder other black people, and white people overwhelmingly murder other white people. So just like abuse and harassment on the internet, this isn't really a racial issue like that isn't really a gendered issue. Looking at overall violent crime, blacks are 27% more likely to attack whites than vice versa, and 8 times more likely to attack Hispanics. This is the shocking number I hope you take away from my visit. 90% of blacks that die of murder die at the hands of other black people, and that's from the FBI homicide report. 90%. We're not here to talk about why this happens, why 74% of black children are raised without fathers per Health and Human Services, and why the government seems intent on continuing a cycle of destruction within the black community. My message is simple. Black lives don't matter to Black Lives Matter. If they did, they'd be confronting these issues instead of ignoring them completely.
Now, I will say, Milo is not a good person at all. He has been involved in so much controversy, like paedophilia. He's been suspended on Twitter and Facebook. Like, he has done a lot of shit. But all I'm trying to say is that video makes you think, and I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm going to leave it to you. That's for your interpretation, not mine.
You must first educate yourself, so you know exactly what you're standing for and why you're standing.
I think it's all well known at this point that he doesn't mean educate yourself. He means follow my ideology and be subservient to it.
Thank you all for tuning in to the first of hopefully many episodes of Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man. Consider this a safe space to educate yourself.
Can't call something a safe space when it's got uncomfortable in the title of the video. Basically the end of the video, but I just wanted to clarify to everyone and say I don't necessarily have anything against this guy. You know, he's doing what he believes in, and he's saying his thoughts, just like I've said mine. But you're all entitled to your own opinion. That's fine. For me, I feel like basing this conversation too much in race just contributes to more racism. By that, I mean, let's just forget the racial barriers. Let's just forget about what colour we are. Instead, let's focus on uniting people instead of dividing people, because there is so much more that we have in common than what we have against each other. It really is that simple. Finish this off by saying rest in peace to George Floyd and everyone else who has passed away or has been killed in these racist events. It's disgusting. Hopefully now we see the police in America get reformed and some positive changes come. But yeah, this video's gone on long enough. See ya.